Hey, friends! Welcome to another first try at streaming some VR from Facebook Horizon. I tried this last week, and Facebook Horizon decided to be offline at the same time I tried this out, so it did not go well. So I checked it before the stream today, and so far the service is online and I should be able to get into it here shortly. Last week, I gave a quick rundown of what I'm using here. I'll do it again real fast. I have the Oculus Quest, the original Oculus Quest. So this is the 1.0 version, not the Quest 2. Heard there is a Quest Pro coming out soon as well, so we'll see some more of these Quest headsets come out. These are made by Facebook. The platform is made by Facebook. I do not work for Facebook. I just found what they're working on immensely cool. So we are going to fiddle with their new tooling today and their new playground. Welcome, Time Bender and Nerd Herder. Welcome to the show. We're going to hopefully, hopefully you guys in the chat room will find this stuff interesting. I know this is a new area for me to talk about, so you may not have seen me talking about VR before, but maybe web development or C# coding or whatever it is. So today it's VR. This is going to be really beginner type dev stuff too. It's not going to be as advanced as something like uh, Unity or like the Unreal Engine or anything like that. This is the thing that I like about this is um, the fact that it is so easy to access. So this is going to be ideal for new devs, and there's plenty of room for people with coding knowledge to get their hands dirty and do some really wild stuff with scripting. Nerd Herder, uh, I don't know how we can both be the best at it at the same time, but we might have to talk after the show about how that happened. All right. So I'm going to try to switch over to VR. This is going to take a sec. I've got to get into my headset here and fire up casting. And I'm going to do this through the Chrome browser. This is probably one of the easiest ways for me to get this up on screen for you all to see. When I do this, I am broadcasting to multiple channels. I'm on YouTube and couple's Twitch channels and Facebook. I have an audio device that is reading out the chat room through speech to or text to speech, so I can hear the chat room on the Code It Live channel and on the YouTube channel only, because that speech plugin does not work on Facebook and my other YouTube, or it only works on one Twitch channel at a time. So Code It Live or YouTube, I can hear your chat comments. Anybody else, I'll be in VR, so I can't really read the chat. I got to rely on the text to speech. I'm going to try to up my game with the streaming technology here over the course of the next few shows and see if I can do more to get chat into the headset so I can talk to people a little bit easier. But until then, just keep that in mind. All right, so I'm going to strap this thing on, and you'll see it should start casting here momentarily. And I'll leave the camera window go for now too, so you can see how this thing interacts with me as I use it, in case you don't have one or you haven't experienced a VR headset yet. Um, I will look awkward, I can tell you that. But inside this VR headset, there are some pretty cool games and things that we can get and play and do development and stuff like that. So it's worth the awkwardness, trust me. All right, so casting should be coming up here now. As soon as I give it permission, we should be good to go. And there we go. All right. I can make this a little bit more full screen for you folks too. And we'll make sure we catch the audio coming through as well, because there are sounds and things that play inside of the VR development and game environment. All right. So, just gotta get some final adjustments. There we are. And let's go ahead and open up Facebook Horizon. So Facebook Horizon is invite only beta right now, and hence the blackout last week on the last week's show. It is in beta. Beta things do happen. I have had it crash from time to time, but not very much. It's fairly stable as far as that kind of stuff goes. Um, it's an interesting platform. I won't go into the common areas right now. Um, there's people in there that are using the game and stuff, and I don't want to stream people that don't want to be streamed. So instead of visit world, I'm going to go right into kind of where we are and how it gets set up here. So this is the lobby area right now. I don't know if they're going to develop like a home area where you can customize your home setting or anything, similar to maybe like alt space or something. But you can edit your avatar, so you can set yourself up. Uh, we won't go into super detail on that, but I'll just show you what that looks like. And I'm having some tracking issues already. Look at that. So we won't. There we go. There we go. Let's edit our avatar. You can see you can pick your body, face, hair style, all of that type of stuff. The usual type of thing. So the editor experience in this is what I really want to get into today. And if I hold up my arm, you can see a little wristwatch UI pop up. You can use your controller as well, but this is pretty neat stuff here. These are all events and other people's creations that we can visit. So we can go to all these games that people have made. They added a new beta feature, so you can beta test with folks and go in and explore worlds, and you're still able to make changes after things are published. And then you could categorize these too. So you can go through and find player versus player games, sports games, all sorts of stuff. Looks like we've got bowling alley here. Let's go ahead and check that out real quick. So we can see what somebody else has made, just to give you an idea of what the game engine's capable of. The building blocks and stuff are pretty rudimentary. As you'll see, it's mostly basic shapes. It's a little bit, I'd say, a little bit above a Minecraft graphics capability, but nothing just like AAA game graphics wise. And I think that's because they want to keep this simple enough that people can be creative and build things and not be overwhelmed. But it also doesn't limit your creativity in any way, I don't feel. You can get pretty detailed with these basic shapes just by assembling them into reusable pieces and kind of um, organizing them in a way that you can make bigger stuff. So you can see here somebody's made a bowling game, and there's physics, and I'll show you how to do some physics today. It's really actually pretty simple. So we can just line up here, toss a ball, and those pins are pretty stiff. I could say that, but you get the idea. This is actually pretty neat. So let's see, we need to return the ball manually. There we go. So these are just some of the types of things that you can create. It doesn't look like we got scoring in this one yet, but you can add scores. You can add scoreboards and stuff like that to your games. So if you want to get started building something, you click on your wristwatch. We'll go to create, and then we can create a brand new world. You can see I've been tinkering around in here just a little bit. They give you some starters. You can start with some simple landscapes and things. There's a little bit more rich environments. These I would suggest maybe checking out initially, but they're probably going to get in your way when you start building your own game. You're going to want to remove a bunch of the assets that are already there and add your own. And there's a bunch of scripting tutorials that you can start with as well. that let you do like player versus player. Or maybe you want to make your own escape room or something like that. So just gonna take a quick check here, make sure stream's going good before I move on too far. Make sure we don't have any questions I've missed. As far as I know, the speech to text or text to speech thing works well. Um, and maybe it doesn't. I haven't heard some of these messages come through. So let me double check this real fast. There we go. Nerd Herder's on point. He's got the tests going. Thanks, Nerd Herder. So that does work just fine. Again, I can only hear you on the Code It Live channel, and on our YouTube channel, I should be able to hear you as well. So let's go ahead and create something new. Let's go on. Let's see, should we do a blank world or should we start with a little bit of assets first? Let's go ahead and start with some assets, just so you can see what kind of stuff we could build with the basic building blocks and things. Again, if you're going to start a new game or something, you might want to start from scratch. But we're just going to do some simple demos today. So Nerd Herder wants the full Visual Studio experience inside of VR. And Nerd Herder, you haven't even seen the VR tools, the dev tools on this yet. So what's really cool about this is we can do all of our development here in VR. I do feel you though. I think there needs to be like a desktop companion to this thing. After spending probably more than an hour at a time in here doing game dev, you do get pretty fatigued. You get a little bit of. I'm not one to get motion sick really, but when you're flying around in uh, through these 3D worlds, um, and you're not walking around naturally, things can get a little bit queasy. So this gives you a little bit of an idea of what kind of environments you can create. This is a pretty decent one actually. You can see we've got like a snow effect happening here. There's even I think picking up some sound effects as we walk through the snow. Um, the objects themselves you can scale down pretty far. You can make things like these little light strips and whatnot. You can jump as well, so there's a button to jump, and we can walk around. And I can walk around in 3D's normal space too. I just don't have a lot of room in front of my desk here. I usually go in another room that I've got designated for this when I'm working in here and building in here. So it looks like we got a little bit of a holiday theme. But the real beauty of this thing is the editor. So on my hand here, you can see underneath my thumb, I've got, I don't know where I'm at in regards to the camera. I think this should be a pretty good representation here. You can see on my control stick in my hand, if I press down on that control stick, I go into edit mode. And this is where things get really neat. So just by pressing down, I'm no longer in the game playing, I'm in the game, but I'm building. And I can zoom out as far as I'd like, and it turns into, kind of like, for lack of a better term, like a little dollhouse or something that I can come in and move pieces around and create things. And let's start off and just have a little bit of fun here. So over here, they've already set up some scripts. It looks like we have snowballs. Go check that out. So let's see. I thought I pointed at it. If we take our control stick on the other hand in developer mode and point it, you can see this is where I should spawn. I want to go kind of warp over and check something out. So I want to spawn in this direction. Hey, Curious Drive, welcome. And you can see I can pick up objects and they act with physics. And this type of thing is super easy to create. So I'll show you how to create those. Looks like they're respawning, going a little crazy. This world has some pretty good examples in it. I've never been in it before, but This is pretty awesome, Curious Drive. The interactivity bits. So I've done game dev before, and to go in and out of your world like this usually takes quite a bit of time. There's usually like a compile step that happens between when the map is playable and when you can experience it directly. So I think the simplified graphics and stuff really help with that. But what's cool is the editor tools are right here in the experience, and it feels very intuitive when you're in it. So let's take this for example. These packages I can't pick up and move. They're not interactive bits. They're just parts of the scenery. So let's pretend for a minute that I want to make one of those packages interactive. So what we can do, so I'll zoom in a little bit here, and you kind of can use like this, you can grab both hands and triggers, and I can zoom in and out like this, and we can move around very quickly like that. I'm grabbing one trigger at a time now, and I can pan about the level. I can grab both triggers, and I can zoom in. You can see a scale. So that's also very helpful. So if you want to be 100% with the world, you can go down to one. So this lets you do things very, very quickly as far as moving about the level. Let's see what we've got on this package here. So let's see if we can make this interactive. This is a group of objects. So we can lift this up. You can see it's actually a pretty big package. It's kind of hidden into the world there. Let's set this up right. And notice I have a properties panel on that group of objects. And the properties panel, a lot of things you can do in here. I'll make this big to make sure you can see it all on screen. So we can set things like visibility. This is telling it that other objects in the world can collide with it. This is, does it have motion? There's a very easy to use animation feature in here that allows you to create elaborate animations on your objects. We can look at that in just a little bit. So I can choose animated. What I wanted to show everyone today is interactive. So we can toggle this over to interactive. And then notice we have a couple interactions here. We have grabbable, physics, and both. Let's go back and check out what we did by making this grabbable. So now I should be able to just pick up my package just by toggling that one property. So I could pick it up. I can't throw it though. Notice when I let go, it just kind of floats and hangs in midair. This is helpful if you have something that's like maybe a weapon. You don't want it to, fly away from the player every time they drop it. So we're yeah, here's Drive. We're like Thanos here. We can pretty much manipulate anything. But if you have something you don't want to get away from the player, this is super handy. But if you want something the player can pick up and chuck and throw, let's go ahead and add some of that type of thing. Because what we'd really like to do is what we've got with the snowballs here, where we can pick up the snowballs and just kind of throw those anywhere. Let's go back into dev mode here, and we've still got our package. Notice it's keeping its place where we picked it up and left it. And then there's a shadow box where it actually spawns. And this is pretty handy to understand what's happening here, is that the world is happening in real time, and it keeps playing as you're building. So it's not going to restart every time you're in and out of the builder. And sometimes you might need to do that, and I'll show you where those tools are in just a minute, where you can reset the world as if you just spawned in it. But for now, let's focus back on our package. And I'm going to change this. We could change it to physics, and it's going to fall to the ground by itself. But I want to be able to interact with it as well. So I'm going to hit both. So now it has the ability to have physics, and it also has the ability for me to pick it up and move it. And then we can go back into our world here. I think I'm a little too close. It won't let me spawn next to it. There we go. So now remember when I picked it up before, Yeah, so there, let's see here. All right. So, yeah, this is the awkward part about VRs. I have no clue where you guys are and where I am. It's probably easier to hear if I'm facing the screen. Um, so now we can pick up the box, and if I let go, we've got physics, and it's just that easy. So we can set the box down, we can pick it up, we can chuck it, and man, that went far. I'm pretty strong in VR. Uh, that's how easy it is, though, to get started with this. It looks like it respawned here. So if these things get loose on you, thank you, Thomas. uh, so this one's respawning a bit for me. If these aren't respawning, let's see. This is probably a better example. If I bring the spawn up here, it's going to fall down. That I think I copied it by accident. Let's try this again. If I pick this up and put it here, it's going to spawn and fall. When I'm editing, when I see these empty boxes, if I click, it's going to bring it back up to that spawn point. So it's going to find that object. So if this thing falls and it goes off screen somewhere and I can't find it, then I know I can always go back to the spawn point and just click and I can bring it back. Mr. Magoo's getting motion sick already. Sorry about that, buddy. Try being in that. No, it's not that bad while you're in it. It does when you're doing a lot of zooming in and out. Things can get a little crazy. Um, it's more the long term that makes you kind of feel kind of weak after a bit. Uh, like I said, about an hour to 2 hours, you start feeling this pretty hard. It'd be nice to be able to switch to a desktop. There is no desktop component though. Under physics and material here, this defines how this behaves. And you saw me just chuck it like across the universe here. We can make that a bit heavier possibly. So you can change the physical properties of these objects as well. Let's see what bearing that has on it. That's still pretty easy to throw like crazy. Maybe I just don't know my own strength. These are a little bit more fun. Let's give this something unrealistic and make it Super Ball physics. So now if I come back into my pointer keeps hitting below the world here. Close enough. If we come in this time and we grab our package and throw it at the ground, notice we got a nice bounce effect. So that's physics in a nutshell. It's still going. When they mean Super Bowl, they mean Super Bowl. All right, my cords get a little tangled. I normally don't play powered in as well. You'll see power cable hanging off of my VR headset here. I'm doing that for the show to make sure I have enough juice. And just, of course, I'm going to get tangled up in my own cords as I talk about them. That's always super helpful. So this is VR streaming at its best right here. Um, I'm gonna try to get a better setup for doing this stuff if I can figure out better ways to do it, so I don't get caught up in the cords and whatnot. So let's see what else is baked into this demo world they've got here. Looks like we might have some ability to kind of like decorate snowmen. And I'm not in the editor anymore. This is actually the game portion of it. It looks like they've built in some scripting here to allow us to decorate the snowmen. So that's pretty slick. Um, let's see here. Okay, so these are more of an example. No scripting here. It's just it's that physics properties I told you about, where it's not there are no physics. It's just interactable. So we can take these and move them around. This is the first show so far. Um, I'm going to be doing these each week, though. So check back next Thursday and we'll do another one of these. If this goes well, we'll keep it up. Yeah, I'd like to have a Quest 2. I've heard both good and bad things about them. So I've heard they are um, less comfortable, but the graphics are better. The screen resolution's a bit tighter and stuff. So I'd like to try one out, but I'm not sure if it's worthy of an upgrade quite yet. Let's see. We saw that we can build things that are easy to pick up, and we haven't really seen any of the tools yet. We modified some existing things. Let's see how we can actually build some stuff. Let's create a new object of some sort. So we'll come over in the middle of the ice here, and I'll show you around the menu. So this is our build menu. So on my left hand, I've got a little um, button on my controller that I can press, and it will bring up my build menu. I also have that on my wrist, and my little wristwatch interface. I can pull that up as well, and I can physically tap on it. Yeah, the the Quest 2 does sound nice. I have a custom strap on this one as well, so I'd probably get one for a Quest 2 also. Um, it's really just like, is it worth the money type of thing. Oh, okay. Good to know. So the Elite strap, is that an official Elite strap or is that something you grabbed off Amazon? So panel two is triggers. So we've got shapes and triggers. Nice. I was wondering if they were going to start kind of monetizing it the way Apple does with their devices. So the build menu, by the way, if you hold this button, it will float with your hand. So that's awful handy because we are in VR and this thing can get away from you very easily if you start walking over and building somewhere else. And it has just a small list of shapes. You've got kind of like your marshmallow shape here. And if I drag them off the design surface and just leave them here, they'll persist in the world. We've got some cylinders and cubes and whatnot. There's two different versions of cubes. Oh boy, that's not good. Uh, Mr. Magoo. That is exactly what I was talking about with Apple. We'll have a million dongles for the Quest if they go the Apple route. But you can see I can easily manipulate these things. If I pinch and zoom with both hands, I can make them as small as I want or as big as I want. They scale up pretty easily according to how I grab them. What there is not right now is there's no vertice editing. You do see some vertice looking icons here, but these are not for edit. They are for alignment. So I can grab these and align them to the ice, for example, or I could grab two items and align them together using these little handles. This is something they just added literally like yesterday or the day before, and you're able to do some quick alignment with that type of thing. Cannot edit vertices though. You can shrink and grow, and then you can manipulate them through handles this way. You'll see that there are XYZ handles on the object. And if I grab the green handle, the square part of it, and drag up, then I can stretch the object out in that direction. That goes for these other handles as well. And you can see how you could get different styles of shapes just out of manipulating what's already here. You can't get really detailed with a single shape, but you can use multiple shapes to accomplish pretty much anything that you need. You can see that's how they pulled off the snow on the trees and that type of stuff, is by just combining different shapes together. So it looks like with the tree, if we tried to recreate something like that, we've got a simple cone shape that they've stretched out in the north direction here. And then It looks like the snow, uh, little snow ledges are something like um, a small half cylinder or something that are just wedged inside of the tree like so. Yeah, you wish they'd give you everything you need to be successful with the device when you pay that much money for it, but we know that's not how companies like that make money. So anyway, you can see I deleted these very easily too. There's a trash can icon at the bottom of my hand, so if I click and hold and press down on the controller, that is deleted. We can also go, let's play around with some shapes for a minute. We can do something like decorate this tree if we wanted to grab um, some ornaments maybe. So if we wanted to make ornaments, we could do something. Come into our paint tool that is on the bar here. So we have our shapes. We have gizmos. This is all for scripting. I'll get into that in just a minute. And we have sounds, and those obviously go with the scripts. And you can play and make sounds in your environments too. You can actually hear some like background music playing. But let's talk about shape manipulation really quick. We've got two shapes here. Let's make an ornament for this tree. And we've got different material types. There's not a lot here, but we can do quite a bit with what we have. Let's give this one kind of a metal look, and we'll make that red. And then I'll hold. You can see I've turned my hand to a paintbrush here, and I'm going to go ahead and just hold it over the object and click. And then we can get like a gold color for the stem. And then now we've got those two pieces. We'll grab this guy and shrink it down a little bit. And then we can use our alignment tool. Alignment tools are at the bottom of the control stick. If I press down, I'll enable that little magnet, which gives me these XY um, little vertice grippers that I told you about earlier. So we can line that up. And you can see it's still got a little bit of a gap on the ball there. So what I can do is another way to select um, so this is the Quest 1. I don't know if they sell the Quest 1 anymore, but Oculus.com should be like the main resource to find those, and they're on Amazon as well. You'll find the Quest 2. It's created by Facebook, which is also, this is by Facebook as well. So I've got my selection tool, which I can make bigger. You can see the bubble. I can make that bigger and I can select multiple things with it. But I'm going to drag down and select that by tapping on it. And then I'm going to grab this bottom knob again and stretch that into the center of this so there's no gap between the stem and the ball. And then I can come in and I'll make my tool bigger this time, select both of these. And then you can see on my hand, I've got the ability to group them together. So now we've got a grouped object. We have an ornament. And of course, if you're going to decorate a Christmas tree, you don't want just one ornament. So I can hold this and press to the right and make a copy of it. And just that easy, I've got two of them. So now we can come over and place those on the tree. That's how you make objects and shapes and things inside of this world. So yeah, this is doing 3D modeling is a pretty tough task. If you're in something like 3ds Max or Maya, you still have kind of like the basic shapes and whatnot, but you have to break apart the individual vertices and like you can do a lot more elaborate things in other editors. Like you can take, for example, a square like this and say you want to punch a hole through the middle of the square, you'd get a cylinder and place it down the inside of the square like this. And you would hit a button that says subtract. And you could actually subtract the cylinder outside of from the inside of the square. Yeah, this is pretty cool stuff. Like I was saying in Maya, or 3ds Max, you could actually do subtraction on these and put like a hole through the center. There isn't an equivalent here. There's no way to put like really a hole inside of like a doorway or something. You kind of have to build these any kind of negative space you have to build with the kind of arch tools or stuff that's already provided. That's where things get a little bit on the difficult side. You kind of have to think ahead a little bit before you construct some things that you might expect to be like doorways and hallways and that type of stuff. But you could see from the surroundings when I zoom out, this is pretty decent geometry here that they've done. I mean, we've got icicles. There's some small detail and stuff in the distance. There's snow caps on the different shapes here, and I think the basics are nice because they don't scare people away. This is all stuff that you look at and you think is pretty doable. So you can even do stuff like brick walls and things, but again, this isn't like a texture. This isn't like texture mapping. So these are all physical objects that are just embedded inside of a square. So we've got cubes with rounded corners embedded in another cube. So all of these things are actual physical blocks. Let's take a look at some more of the scripting stuff. So let's take a look at these snowballs again. And you saw when they hit the water, they disappear and they'll respawn. So you can build games. Um, we saw if you tuned in early, there was a bowling alley, and I was throwing bowling balls, and there were collision events and things happening to knock pins down. So we can get fairly elaborate. Let's see here, and speaking of jinxing it, I've lost my editing tools. There it goes. My editing tool went away for a minute. Let's see. So there is a script already in this one called Snowball Hit. And I'm going to click on the script block. This is the fun part of VR. Okay, see this black line? Sometimes these windows pop up. Like on the desktop when you have you click on a window on the Windows toolbar or Mac OS, and the window comes up somewhere and you can't find it because you have like two or three screens and it's hidden behind something. This is like to the nth degree. It's below the world somewhere, just floating in the ether. So we'll pick this up, drag it back into the universe, so we can take a look at it. And yes, folks, this is the IDE. So we're in the integrated development environment. If you're new to scripting in web or development in general. Oh, okay, nice. Did they have what for VR? I missed that. Um, Missed what the question was there, Mr. Magoo. Um, so this is our snowball script. This is what is essentially detecting the collision and playing the splash effect, and it is also resetting the position or warping the element back to the pile. So when the world is started, it's going to make sure that all the snowballs have a marker so they can come back to that position. So it's giving it a position to reset that snowball. So it's saying position of self is equal to a variable. So when the world starts, we're going to grab the position of that ball and set it here. There's a collision enter event. Um, and when it collides, it is going to play effects on itself. All right. It's hard to interact with some of the chat through voice. I couldn't quite get that, but I'll try to take a look here in a few minutes and go over some questions. All right. So on collision enter, we're going to move some visual effects. So there are visual effects right here that are connected to that script. So instead of having a single uh, visual effect instance, oh man, I have no clue what that just said. Can I try? Let me see. Can I? Oh, you're just trying to troll me now, Mr. Magoo. I see what you're doing. All right. Let's see. So instead of having a visual effect per ball instance, we're going to share one. And the way we do that, and I know this is probably getting in scripting pretty deep pretty quick, so we can back out of this and do some simple stuff after I explain what's going on here. We're going to have a collision event. And what we're going to do is move the special effects, that little splash, to the position of the ball where it landed. And then we'll play that special effect at that location. So your splash effect isn't happening, just in one spot all the time. It's actually moving that special effect around and reusing it. And then it's going to reset the ball to its initial position. So it's going to respawn that ball somewhere where it spawned when the game started. So remember, this saved that initial position, and this is resetting it to that position. Um, and then stop physical motion is super handy because what's happening here is I'm going to throw the ball. The ball's going to be in motion. And if I call move to and I don't stop the physical motion, the ball will respawn and continue on the path it was already going on. So the ball's going to just keep sailing after it respawns itself. So it's important to stop those balls once they're respawned. Um, I'm not sure what the second collision event is for. It looks like more of the same. I don't know if this was an accidental copy. That's what it looks like. Oh no, this is player. So if I had another player, so this one is collision enter object. This one is collision enter player. So if I was in a multiplayer here, this is a multiplayer environment. Um, we'll have possibly Alyssa Nicole, coworker of mine, come on and do some of these with me because the pair programming experience is the same as the multiplayer experience. So you can imagine where I'm standing now. I actually have another person in VR standing next to me in the physical VR space here, and we can both look at this and interact with the code. It's very cool. If you thought Visual Studio Live Share was cool, this is like on that type of level. So I have collision with an object, which is like the ground, and then I have collision with player. So if I throw it at Alyssa, if she was here, that snowball would smash on her and respawn. So that's your basics. Oh, the emojis are what's throwing me off. I don't understand those. Yeah, Alyssa's fantastic. We're gonna have a lot of fun doing streams, I think, with this as well as some other things. Um, so let's mess around with scripting a little bit because it's a fairly basic script, but when you haven't seen any of this at all, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So let's create a little like ball and target type of a thing. So let's start with something from scratch. Um, let's create a ball and let's create a basket. So we want to put the ball in the basket and trigger some event to happen. So we'll create a basket, make sure it fits the ball. We're going to go into gizmos and we're going to add some scripting tools. So we used collision detection for that. I'm going to use a trigger because we're going to put it through something that has no collision space. So we're going to create an area for a collision to happen, or a trigger to happen, rather. The next thing, we probably want some sound effects to play, and let's just pick something. There's a lot of them that you can actually search in here, and you could say, let's see, there's a lot of game sound effects, I believe. There we go. There's negative. That's what I was trying to remember how they word this in here. Negative, positive, and initiate gameplay. So we have things like gameplay collide. Um, let's try to find something that's got a little bit of a positive note to it. These are kind of like flute noises here. There we go. That'll work. It gives us a nice little success noise that we can sound off. And then let's go ahead and put a little particle effect in there too. So we can talk about these things all in a context, actually, I think would make a pretty nice demo. Oh, and of course, last but not least, let's not forget our script. We have to actually tie this all together. So let's say, let's move this. I got another hot tip for you. If you want to see how this all scales to a person, because remember, when I do this pinch and zoom, it's easy to see against this blue background here. I'm at a different scale than I am in real gameplay. So I am 7 times the scale of a player right now. So I'm quite large. And if we start building, we might have to rescale some things. So what I like to do, if I want to kind of measure this up without jumping in and out of game to see how big something is, grab a spawn point, because a spawn point is the size of a human player, and we'll drop that down on the ground. And now we can see the relative size here. I didn't do too bad. It's about the size maybe of a basketball. And we have a hoop to throw it through, and it fits through the hoop. So I think we're good in that respect. But the spawn points are a good reference if you're trying to build a gun, or if you want to make a snowball or a basketball, those type of things. You can bring it over to the hand here and kind of get a rough estimate of how big that thing is going to be. Or maybe you're putting a doorway that you want somebody to walk through. You want that thing to be relative to how big they are. So I think that's super handy to have. Scale is massively important in this type of thing. Something we don't deal with when we're working in like web development or backend coding or something. This is a trigger block. These are something that are commonly used in most game engines to trigger events. They can be a lot of things. They're very utilitarian. So we can do trigger events. They can act as a spawn point for objects. They can be waypoints for navigating animations, all sorts of things. And we can drop this inside of our donut here. And this can act as a trigger event to detect the ball passing through our target. Let's take a look at our script. So a script in this engine and most is kind of a standalone thing. You can think of this if you've done software development before, and if you haven't, these are good things to know if you ever decide that's what you're going to get into. A script in here is kind of like a class. It describes what's going to happen through code, but it is not the physical instance of that class. It's not the actual thing that is doing the work. So we're going to have to attach the script to something in order to make the events trigger and things to happen. So let's call this ball target. So this is our ball target script. When world is started is good for setting up variables and things that need to happen when the world is triggered. I don't think we're going to have any of those for this. I can remove that. So I'm going to build this script in mind with the fact that I'm going to attach it to a trigger. So trigger will become self in any of the code you see here that says self. It's going to be referring to that trigger. So what I can do here is I can say when trigger enter with object is received. So there's going to be an object, the ball, that goes through the trigger. When that object, the ball, is received, we'll do something. We have some special effects here. So let's take a look at our special effects block because we want to play some special effects on that trigger area. So in here, I can set multiple special effects. You can kind of build your own. I won't get into that today because it requires talking about animation and stuff like that. And it's a little bit deeper of a discussion, I think, than just beginner stuff. So we'll use these preset particle effects. Effects are just a little bit different in some ways. We can cover that on another show. But for the most part, these will play a predefined set of particle emitters that we can use for special effects. I like the confetti one. We'll use that one. If you want to see these and kind of explore all of them, it's easy to put looping on. And then as you go through these, you'll see them continue to play. So we have hit ring. That's another good one if you're doing target games. Confetti burst. We can sparkle. Do you have, say, a treasure that you're, or a goal that somebody's going for? Those are really nice. They're using this one for the snowball, which is a good choice. So they're doing the water spray or water burst, one of the two here. They have different velocities, but they're about the same. So we'll go back to the confetti burst. And we'll go ahead and stop that animation and we'll turn the looping off there. So we've got our effect that we want to play. So we'll go ahead and put this over here. And then we need to tell our script how to locate that special effect. So we need a variable. So let's talk about some of the tabs that are up here on our scripting bar. So we've got control statement, if. There is just if and only if. There's no else. There's no switches. There's nothing crazy. It's just if. So you got to be a little creative in here. It's kind of frustrating and fun at the same time if you're a developer because it is a challenge to work with only an if and if only. What you have to do is drag your if over and then use event delegates to send events off from one area of the code base here to another. There are no functions either. So you have to use events primarily for everything. So you'll find all of your events in this first panel. There's quite a few of them. I won't go through them all today. You can also connect to events and listen to events on other objects, which can be super handy. So you can create kind of like controllers that can handle events from many different objects and consolidate those and make decisions and then send events back. So it can get pretty smart. We can move things around. We can animate things with motion over time. You can control player motion to some extent. You can respawn the player. You can change gravity, things like that for the player. Physical motion, again, we saw some of that with the snowball. You might want to pause it or stop the physical motion just so things don't keep flying as they travel through space. Next tab over is our object tab. You can control some of the object properties in here. There's no way to get variables on an object without using events. So there's no way to kind of do like does that light have the color yellow without actually going and attaching to an event to get that. So you'll find some pretty basic stuff under object like show, hide, those enable, disable, etc. We can do text. We can display text, handy for scoreboards. We can play sounds. And for us right now, we want play visual effect. So we'll drag that over. We can do logic operations. So if you have an if block, you'd grab some of these math functions and whatnot to do some various things. One that I find handy to use quite a bit is position of player or position of object because it will give you the vector of that object. You can set variables using set2, and there are constants that you can input into your program as well. And then on the final tab, this is where you actually define your variables. So remember I said we need a reference to this special effects. We'll come in here and I'll create a variable called of object called fx. I'm just going to make this really simple here. Call that fx. We also have a sound that we want to play. So I'm going to go ahead and create another variable. Most of the time you're going to use objects in here unless you're sending numbers around for scores or vectors or those type of things. We can also do Boolean values in here. So I'm going to do a sound effect. So we could name these if we had more elaborate situation. I'd name these a little bit more intuitive, but we only have a special effect and a sound effect. So I'm going to name that FX and SFX. So we have play visual effect. We want to play a sound effect as well. So I want to do sound, play sound. We'll drag that over. And so when that event is triggered, we will drag the FX. So we'll play the visual effects and we'll play the sound on sound effects. Come on. Sometimes these are a little tough to get in the right spot, but you can see almost no typing in here at all. A lot of it you do just dragging and dropping. And what's really interesting here is these are 3D elements, by the way. This kind of blew me away a little bit at first. Like these are physically like 3D objects that we're dragging onto the design surface. That's the first time I've ever coded where the code blocks are literally cubes. So we've got the ability to play some things when this trigger is active. But notice we haven't done anything with the script yet. It's not actually attached to anything. So I'm going to come over to my trigger and pop up the properties on my trigger. And here's where the script actually becomes an instance. So right now the script is kind of the class. It's describing what we want this thing to do. When we hit attach script, this is our ball target. And notice it light up with the variables that we assigned, FX and sound effects. So now I can go over to my sound effects. And I've got the same type of property window here, and I have a reference plug. And I will plug this into my sound effects. And the same for my visual effects. I'm going to take a reference and plug that into my trigger. And I can close my effects off. These have various properties as well. The sounds, we can have the sounds play different volumes, different octaves, which I can show a quick demo of before we go today on how elaborate you can actually get with that. Now, the last thing we need to do here before this will actually, well, let's make this a learning moment before we get too far. First of all, we need our sphere to actually be interactive. We did this earlier, and in case you missed it, the first thing we want to do is set motion to interactive, interaction to both grabbable and physics. And then the material, let's go ahead and set it to rubber ball. We'll try to not let this bounce away from us too far. But this will make it a little bit fun that we can maybe bounce it through the hoop or whatever. So now we should be able to pick that ball up and throw it through the hoop. Now, I got it in, but nothing happened. There's a good reason for that. We haven't quite finished describing how we want this to work. So if I look at my trigger, by default, it says trigger on players. So right now, our script is telling us to trigger on a trigger event of object. It's waiting for an object to pass through the trigger, and a player is passing through the trigger if I were to stick my hand in it. And that's not what we've set this up for. So we need to set that to an object, and objects require a tag. I don't believe there is a way to have it generic for any object to float through this and make a score. I think this might be to be an efficiency thing. So it's not trying to detect like the entire world passing through this trigger. We need to be pretty precise about this. So I'm going to call this a ball. Object tag ball. So when this trigger sees a ball pass through it, that is when it will actually trigger that script. Now, the ball must have a matching tag for that trigger to initialize. And here's one of those fun VR 3D fiascos where it's shoved my property box into the ether again. I don't know why it does this. Hopefully they can weed this bug out of the system pretty soon, because if you have something really complex, that can get a little bit annoying. So we'll zoom over onto the ball now, and under attributes, we'll tell attributes that this is a ball, so it can trigger the ball trigger. So now we've wired that up, and it should be able to activate our event. So let's grab our ball. Not sure why that's playing on spawn, but it is. But we should hear a sound in a... Okay, it's a little delayed for me, but you get the idea. It did play the special effects and the sound when it went through. So that's a pretty basic game that we've just created. Uh, you could call it a game. It's got an objective, and it's got something that player can interact with. So you could expand upon this, make a basketball game. You saw bowling earlier. You could set these up in different locations and make them to where you have to be creative about how you're going to bounce that ball to get it inside the hoop type of thing, and you can use your imagination to go from there, all with just that simple set of script there. So where these things start getting really complex is when you start making them a little more generic, so you can have many objects, like all of these snowballs, for example, where they're interacting with multiple environments and respawning back where they started and whatnot. Um, Scripts start to grow. If you're doing scoring, things get pretty big pretty quick. So we can, on another show here, do another one of these tutorials. Maybe we'll start building some sort of simple game and show how the different mechanics for building a game can work. So it looks like we're still going good here. Just making sure there weren't any questions I missed or anything. Let's see, what time are we at? Because I would be happy to stay on for a few more minutes. We're at 1 hour right now. So I know a lot of folks that are on my shows, this is getting later in the day for you all. But we can take a look. Let's go look at another level that I was, not a level, but a experiment. I like to create a lot of experiments. If you've followed any of my shows, you know how I operate. I have a folder full of experiments at all times, and I'm always building something. So this is a world that I built some fun scripts in, just to kind of check out the how advanced the scripts can get, and what I could personally push myself to do. So this is just a quick demo. I won't go into all the scripts unless there's a question about how something specifically was done, because some of the scripts are quite long. And then while this loads, I do have a couple of invites to the beta. So not on this show, not today, but on, like I said, we're going to try to do these every Thursday at the same time. I might give away a couple of those beta invites, so you can get into the beta if you have an Oculus and this is something that you want to check out. So you can see I've been playing around with the physics, and I have like a super duper bouncy ball here. Again, I was showing my coworker Alyssa how some of this stuff works, and we have that same game with a goal type of a demo that I did. But then things went crazy. I better turn around. I'm not facing you all again. This is so weird. So things will Nothing but Ned's right. So tell us, I think you're from you've been in the Facebook stuff here with me, or not with me, but in the um, with me as in Horizon. So I don't know if this has happened to you, but aliens have crashed into my demo, and they've left some sort of alien technology here, and I think there might be some survivors. I don't know. I've tried to find a way inside of this thing, but they uh, they crash pretty hard. Every once in a while, you can hear. I think you're hearing a cry for help. I don't know. So I don't know if that's happened to you or not. But this they built this thing, um, and there's some access over here. So let's go up and see. Let's go up and take a look at what they've done here. It sounds like a machine of some sorts because I can hear some humming. It sounds like it's got a lot of power going through it here. Not quite sure. They've been busy. It's pretty scary. So it doesn't look like they're quite finished. Um, I know, right? There's like some electric arcing happening here. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, you got to be careful. I'm not sure what that's all about. They've left some of their tools sitting here, so there's this hammer kind of just laying around, um, and I'm not quite sure what that thing does. So we've got a big platform, and it looks like it's wired to a small platform. And let's go ahead and let's chuck her. Whoa! Wow, these aliens are pretty advanced. Um, so looks like they've made something to make objects bigger. So yeah, so they we made like a giant hammer. So watch out for that hammer. Its physics have gotten a little crazy since it's been upgraded in size there. Um, we should holy cow, that thing's really taken off. Um, I don't know where my ball went. Oh yeah, I left my ball in the hoop. We can make the ball bigger. Um, I just wonder like if I put something on this and it gets bigger, what if I should I jump in it? Should I should I get in it and see what happens? Let's get in it. I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna jump in it. Oh shoot. And I goofed it up. I fell off the map. So that was a demo fail, folks. Um, oh, that was not supposed to happen. How weird. This has disappeared. I don't know how. Ah, that sucks. So there was, I'll explain, since I have to go back on, there's like a history of edits that you can pull up on the web. I won't be able to do it here in VR, but there was a mini version of the world beneath here, which has magically been deleted. So what I would do is, boy, that really sucks because it was a cool demo. Is when you'd step on the pad, there was a small version of the world you would teleport to, which would make it look like you got huge. So there was like a tiny spaceship, and you could kind of briefly walk around and see things as if you're a giant. So kind of ruined the moment there, but there was underneath the map yet another. You could see some of the remains of it. How did that happen? I've never seen something get magically deleted unless I do have one collaborator that could have gotten in and accidentally deleted my other world. So it's a carbon copy. Basically, I cloned this. I won't do it on the stream because it lags like all hell when you do it. But I copied this and shrunk it. Yeah, it's probably the aliens. Always blame the aliens. It's got to be the aliens. So there's a pretty elaborate script here. So I talked about earlier that you don't have to rely on the particle effects. You can do your own animations. So you can see these invisible moving lines are animations. They're moving pretty fast, so I got to kind of get in here with the tool to stop this. And if I come into my animation and grab the properties on it, it's really simply just a cylinder that's moving extremely fast. So if I turn this on, there's my cylinder. And if I click off of it, it will animate. And there's my beam effect, my very rudimentary beam effect. So we'll disable that again. Um, and then there's a script that is attached to all of these things. So there's multiple sound effects that play that start you. The audio starts at the small transport, and then it's the same audio effect that's played at three different scales. So it sounds low here, and then it brings your attention by moving the audio to this side of the play area and then upping the octave of the frequency rather of the the sound. So you hear it ramp up, and then when it's done ramping up, the teleported item drops in, and then inside the script there's a little bit of it's very actually simple to resize shapes in Horizon. So again, these scripts just going everywhere are the bane of my existence here. Again, this is a pretty long script, but the part I wanted to point out is we can take the reference to that hammer or whatever it is we dropped inside of the transport, and this one simple line of code right here that says action scale with vector over 1 second is the part where you see it balloon the hammer up. So I take that as a compliment. You like the hammer demo, so we'll drop that again. So most of these things are split into frames and events. So what I've got here is I wanted to have this is a scripting sequence similar to something that we would do in Half-Life. I've done some Half-Life work before, and in the Half-Life engine, you'd set something up similar to this as well. So we have frames that we're triggering here. So the first thing we do is we trigger frame one, and we put no delay on that one. We want that to happen right away. What we're going to do is take the object and we're going to hide it. It has. So this I love Half-Life. So this was kind of like a little um, kind of a throwback to that because the opening sequence of Half-Life, you shove the rock, the sample into the accelerator, and that's kind of like kicking off the entire game. So I wanted to see if I could pull off something epic like that. It is actually, relatively speaking, this is not that hard. So what we do is I set up frames, and each frame is just an event trigger. So on frame one, what we're going to do is we're going to stop the motion on the object, get a reference to it, and hide it. So we're going to take the hammer and hide it. So the player doesn't see it um, sitting on the pad, so they can't accidentally pick it up and move it because it will take it out of their hand. All of the triggers and events are processed server side in Horizon. So there's a little bit of a latency issue with some things happening. You might see if I threw a ball into a trigger, there's either a delay in it playing sound effects and whatnot that has to do with latency. So we're going to hide it. And then on the first frame, we trigger that first frame off, we'll go ahead and show the warp animation. So there's a small version of that red animation. I showed you how that works. You can see it bouncing up and down there, invisible. So it's invisible. We're going to show that, make it visible. We're going to play, or we're going to pause the overall ambient sound effects. So that's going to take the user's attention and direct it towards the small teleport where the sound effects begin playing again. And then when that is done, it's going to kick off the next frame, and it's going to do that on a delay. So it gives it a chance for that sound effect to play out and to kind of give a little suspense to the player. And then on frame 2, we'll go ahead and kill the first sound effect and start up another one. So that lets us ramp up the frequency on those sound effects, because they're actually 3 independent sound effects. Again, we can't target individual properties, so I can't say sound effect dot frequency equals and change it in that regard. Not that I know of. So I've got a second sound effect that is a duplicate but higher frequency. And we'll keep doing that until we get to the point where we want to start playing, and these things can be annoying, until we start playing or putting the hammer back into the space. So when this is finally done, and the way I laid this out, I have frames that are numbered and then frame end. This allows me some expandability if I decide I need another frame in here to continue this this sequence. I can add another frame, and frame end is still going to do frame end. I don't have to keep renumbering everything if I add more frames. So frame end is going to do some cleanup here and do the final effect, and that is to move the hammer that is currently hidden to the new platform, scale it, make sure that the motion is stopped. Again, because I've had it, you saw how crazy the hammer gets, and then we'll go ahead and finally show that hammer. And usually the scaling effect is still in effect as the hammer is shown, which I think is actually pretty cool, in my opinion, because you get to see it kind of spring up over there and grow. So all those things together. And now the magic's kind of worn off. Uh, you guys know how this works now, but now we have a giant hammer. And it is actually the same hammer. I'm not spawning a new hammer. It's just moving the existing one and putting it up here. I really wish somebody hadn't deleted my small mini world, because there's an even simpler script that just takes the player and spawns the player in a different location that it's not really making the player larger or the world smaller, but just putting me in a miniaturized copy of this world, so it gives you that appearance that you've gotten bigger. We can even warp our ball, by the way, as I yank cords out of my computer, because real space trumps virtual space in all cases. Sorry for the technical difficulties again. Um, Tripping over cords is all part of the VR experience. So you can. Yes, I know. I've got to find a way to. I could use the Oculus for the microphone. I'm not sure how well the pickup is. My directional microphone, I also have different modes I can set that might help. So I'll try that on the next show. Appreciate the feedback, because I can make this better. Definitely. So this is the first time I've tried this out to see how it works. So apparently I'm fading a little bit as I turn away from the microphone. That's probably a little annoying. Um, so let's step out of this. I think that's about that's quite a bit of information today. So we'll step out of the editor here, and I'll give you a little chat before we sign off so we can talk about maybe doing another one of these. I always forget. All right, come on. It's giving me a little lag. There we go. Let me out of Horizon. It's like getting trapped in the Matrix here. All right. So give me 1 second here while I unload this gear. All right. So, I think the Horizons is pretty cool tech. Um, I don't know. I think I've seen. Uh, if I remind me if I'm correct here. Tell us you actually are in Horizon, right? So I think I've seen you in Horizon. A lot of you, I think, are probably not in Horizon. Um, is it disorienting a bit when you take it off? Sometimes it can be. So the very first time you kind of get into the Oculus and play with it for a few minutes and then take it off, you're kind of like, wow, this is taking it off as an experience on its own the first time. You're just pretty amazed. Um, okay. There we go. Yeah, so tell us, I knew I didn't recognize the name. So there are meetups that are taking place on Facebook Horizon if you're in the beta. And Tellus was showing us around. Did we really lose audio? Because I was getting, um, okay, Tellus hears me. Nerd Herder, you don't. So refresh your browser, maybe Nerd Herder, you can't hear me. So how would you know what I'm saying? So he can't hear us, so maybe he needs to try refreshing his browser. Um, but yeah, tell us, appreciate that. So you can tell that I used your example to its fullest, I think. I'll have to fix my example, by the way. I'm going to go through the commit history and pull the last change up and see if I can get that mini world back. I might copy it first. I might make a copy. Just I've heard some of the restores um, don't quite go well. So let me see if I can find the link to that. Is facebook.com slash or no, it's Oculus. Oculus.com slash Facebook Horizon, I believe. And then I can share this on stream here, I think. I don't think there's anything sensitive in here that I don't want to share. I'll pull it down if that does happen, but I don't think so. We're going to go Hollow Mirrors here for a sec, folks. There we go. So under my account, is it? No, that's not it. Shoot. Uh, Tell us, do you know where the management page is for your worlds on Facebook? I wanted to show that to some of the folks that haven't seen it yet. Um, Feel free to share that, Tellus, by the way. I don't mind if you post a link here in chat. Um, so there's a management portal for all of your stuff. And I cannot remember off the top of my head how you can get to it, but I kind of wanted to show because I think we have developers still watching the stream here, not just Facebook Horizon folks. And um, I think they'd be interested in seeing that management portal that's here in Facebook because it's pretty decent for I was a little bit worried. Oh, thank you so much. Let me see if I can do this. Facebook Horizon slash creations. Okay. Facebook.com, Facebook Horizon. uh, slash creation. And then let's see here. That I must have typed it wrong. No, I didn't. Horizon slash creations. Okay, yeah, I did type it wrong. Okay, cool. So appreciate that, Tellus. Awesome. And make sure you check out Tellus's videos as well if you want to see more of this type of stuff. I probably got a lot of knowledge from your videos that there's quite a bit of videos actually out there already, which I was surprised to see. So I've been kind of polling ideas from all these videos that are online, yours and some others included, to come up with different scenarios to try out. And the little alien crash site was fun to build. I think you said you wanted to check that out sometime. I can always give you a link to that. Um, make you a collaborator on it so you can see it. So here we go. This is what I wanted to share with the audience is there's so in the software development world, there is a tool called Git or GitHub. And GitHub is where we do our version control. So if we make edits and something goes wrong, we can always go back to a previous save. We don't obviously have Git integration in Horizon, so it has its own version control system built in. And what you can do is come into um, this page on Facebook. It is facebook.com, Facebook Horizon slash creations. This is I should probably bookmark this or something. Um, this is kind of your control center for doing these changes. So if I go into edits here, I can see backups, and there are various backups that are where that world has been edited. And you can see yesterday at 8:42 was my last edit, and there aren't any more between, and it was there last night. So I'm trying to figure out how that piece of my world got deleted between 8:42 and sharing it on stream today. Although I don't remember being in there at 11, so I'm gonna have to see. Um, I'm gonna have to go in and restore some of these. So I might make a copy first and go in and restore off of this. So I don't, if something goes terribly wrong, I still have a copy of it. Because I've heard people tell me in one of the meetups that to be very careful with these backups because they are not always what you expect them to be. So at least you know there is some safety net though. So that is always super helpful. So that the speaking to the developer audience, there's no GitHub here. There's no GitHub, folks, but there is version control, and it is built in. It's auto saving and committing for you as you build your map and enter and exit that map. So that's good stuff. All right, that's gonna do it for me. It is 1 o'clock here my time. Horizon is beta. Uh, Fire Fire is dead. It is beta. I do have some codes to give away at a future date on another show, so we'll start advertising when I'm going to do that. We'll use those to try to beef up the audience a little bit. Hopefully, I'm going to try to give those to people that have an Oculus and are interested in Horizon, but are also in the audience. So we'll try to get some more people in. What's really cool though is the pair programming that you can do in here is really neat. We'll definitely do that on a future show. Sorry, they got this Hall of Mirrors up. I'm such a broadcast noob here. Let me get that off the screen. Um, we'll have some fun in here. We'll build some games. We'll build some scripts. We'll do some pair programming. We'll have some fun on the show. And then hopefully when Horizons gets to be more of a public beta or um, it gets released full to the full audience, then we'll have some assets out there that people can go look at and learn from or just play in. So it's nice having you all around for the stream. Make sure you follow the Code It Live channel. This is a channel that is sponsored by Progress. We do a lot of really good material on here. If you're coming from the Horizons Facebook scripting world, you're not a software developer, tune into the channel anyway. There's lots of skills that you can learn from myself and my coworkers here that can put you in a pretty lucrative career if you stick to it. So there's a lot of coding going on this channel, and there's a lot of very talented folks here that can teach you things about mobile development, web development, desktop. Um, we've done, not me personally, but another couple of coworkers did a Unity stream here as well. We might get back into some Unity at some point here too. So keep up the we'll keep up the content if you keep coming back. How about that? Is that a deal? So we'll see you around soon. I'm going to sign off for today. I'm going to stream some web development tomorrow on my channel, and then I'll be back on Wednesday next week doing web development again, helping host a women's event on Monday. So no podcast on Code It Live on Monday. We're gonna cancel that one. I have another event to attend to. It's Women's National Women's Day on Monday, so I'm helping out with a live stream event for the ladies. So take care, everybody. If I don't see you tomorrow, have an excellent weekend, and we'll catch you here on Code It Live all week next week. Take care.